This is really embarrassing to admit. I recently finished the first draft of chapter 1 from my debut novel, and I was really curious because it's taken me quite a long time to get this first chapter out, get it out of me. So I went back into my docs and I counted how many chapter 1 first drafts I had, and I have 13. In this absolutely stupid chase for perfection of a draft, I have spent an entire year rewriting over and over again instead of writing the rest of my novel, which in a sense hurts a little bit in here, just a touch. But in that time, I've also developed greatly as a writer, I feel, especially with all of the creative writing courses I've been doing at university. And through those courses, and through writing 13 versions of a first draft, here are 3 methods that you can use to help just get that draft 1 out. Hi fiction fiends, my name's Sonia and I write, and today we are not worrying about perfectionism. Today we are drafting our novels, our narratives, our short stories, and our chapter 1s. This first method is what sort of introduced me to understanding that writing a first draft isn't perfect, because it was part of an assignment that I had to do for class, and it is about journaling on a walk. What you're going to do is you're going to take your journal and you're going to go on a little walk with her. And while you're on your walk, you are going to, just as thoughts come to mind, you're going to write down parts of what you want to include in your first draft. These can be Jot-Notes, these can be full-blown long paragraphs in your journal, but the point is that this is not restrictive. You can write things out of order. You can have spelling mistakes. You don't actually have to use this as your first version. This can just be a practice exercise. But the point here is that we're striving for imperfection. And if you do feel confident, and if you are enjoying the draft that you've written in your journal while you took your little walk, then you can come back to your computer, you can sit at a desk, and you can type that bad boy out. And through that practice of journaling while on a walk, I felt so much more free to try and do some experimenting with my first draft. And by the end of the process, I realized I had way more writing than I ever anticipated I would have put in a journal. I think one time I went on a walk for over an hour and I had like 6 pages of just notes of things I didn't even want to include in chapter 1. I wanted to include in future chapters. So if you're worried about feeling restricted in front of a computer, I strongly encourage trying to step away from a desk and take your journal outside and do some drafting out in the wild. The second method to drafting is my favorite. It's called, or it doesn't have a formal name, but I like to call it the Jot-Note plus word vomit combo. This is when you open your Word or your Google Doc, you sit in front of your computer, and every single idea that comes to mind for this chapter or for this novel, you write down in a Jot-Note. It doesn't have to be a complete sentence. It doesn't have to be a full action scene. It doesn't have to be proper dialogue. It doesn't even have to be in the right tense that you want your story to be in. But the point is, you're collecting your ideas and you're sandwiching them into one place. And through Jot-Notes, I find it really easy to highlight things, move them around, identify the places that I think I want to expand on, and then delete. So in the worst case scenario, if I had a draft stolen by a thief and that thief opened up my Jot-Note word vomit combo, I don't think they'd be able to decipher it. So not only is this beneficial for just getting your words down, but nobody knows what you're talking about anyway. Only you. Now, this next method is for all the girls who say, PU to journaling and to jot notes because they require a bit more structure to their drafts. You know what I'm saying? This drafting is what I like to call asterisks are my best friend. And if you're on Book Talk, if you're on Bookstagram, whatever they call it there, you've probably seen published authors and writers talking about this. And I really like it. It's very fun. What you're going to do is you're going to write your draft, write as much as you can. And in any areas that you're feeling like, I don't know what to write here. I don't know if I can write it the way I'm envisioning it to be written, or something needs to be written here and I don't feel like it. You put a little asterisk and you write yourself a note for later. Crazy, right? I was always under the impression that when you're drafting, you have to do the whole thing in one shot. Crazy, right? It's like I'm an absolute lunatic. This method is really helpful for when you might be experiencing a little bit of burnout or writer's block. For example, if you have envisioned that character 1 and character 2 are engaging in a long, heated argument, but you don't feel like you can write it in this moment, you put a little asterisk on the Google Doc and you write yourself, character 1 and character 2 are engaged in a heated argument here. Figure out how to write it at some point. Through leaving yourself these little notes, you're actually breaking up the drafting process and making it less of a burden on yourself. I know that this method requires a little bit more structure, but for my girlies who love a little bit of structure and who love a little bit of a note for later, this one is for you. Now, I like to bounce between these 3 methods because I find that if I stick to one, which usually I'm sticking to the Jot-Note method and I'm just vomiting all the words out that I can onto the page via Jot-Notes. But if I stick to it for too long, sometimes I can get like a little bit of burnout, or sometimes I just need a change of scenery. So consider working through all 3. Consider the asterisk method, consider the journaling, consider the Jot-Notes, and hey, just consider writing that first draft, because if you don't write it now, when will you write it? Perfection is not the end goal in a first draft. I hope that these methods will help you in your drafting journey. And if you have methods of your own that you'd love to share, I would love to hear them. I love experimenting with a draft. So leave them in the comments below. And I hope to hear good news about any drafting that you're doing. And I hope to chat with you soon. Ciao for now, fiction fiends.